Rocking with the voice of Town View. We put our spin on trending topics and school news. Thought-provoking, insightful, we speak the truth. We do it for all ages, not just for the youth. Listen close, you might learn something. Or laugh so hard, you split your side of something. Live stream a podcast. Whenever you tune in, it's sure to be a blast. Let's be honest, you don't want to miss that. Content so real, you're going to want to run it back. We keep you entertained while making an impact. Want foreign announcements? Well, this is not that. Sports, pop, culture, political. Whatever you like, we got you covered, bro. It's a movement more than just a show. It's KSBM Radio.
I'm closer to the music.
Broadcasting live from Marvin E. Robinson School of Business and Management, Dallas, Texas.
My radio station.
We are KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Welcome everyone to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview. I'm your host Mo, and I'm here with
KB
and Nemo.
And today we have a special guest teacher here at Townview, Mr. Briones. All right, Mr. Briones. So could you please give yourself a quick introduction to our audience who may not already know you?
Yeah. So, like you said, I am a teacher here. I teach college readiness, business law, and entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And the upcoming school year, I will be teaching sports management. So I'll be
more on that later.
The pathway.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, Mr. Briones, how you feeling? How's your day going so far? You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's get straight into it then. So, first things up, what would you say is your best characteristic? Get people to know you, and how do you think others would describe you based on that quality?
I'd say I'm resilient. More than anything, because I don't really take no for an answer.
Okay.
And I have that self-relief where I feel like if I put myself in a situation, I'm going to finish it out or I'm going to complete it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just how I ended here, I mean, I kept bugging Rivera to reply to my emails.
Never take no for an answer.
Yeah.
That's good advice. Okay, so diving into your educational background, could you tell us about your high school years, where you went, your experience there, and what you learned during those 4 years at high school?
So, I grew up in Grand Island, Nebraska. So I went to Grand Island Senior High, and I had a really good educational experience. Mm-hmm. Everything was different back then, but I was unique in where I had the same principal elementary, middle, and high school.
What?
So
he followed you?
He followed me. So I had the same principal, and I feel like schools back then were different, and then especially in a small town, teachers got to know students a lot better.
So they had more of that connection?
Yeah, for sure. But I enjoyed my time in school. Part of that is why I decided to become a teacher, was the influence that it had on me.
So coming out of high school, that seed was already planted of maybe becoming a teacher.
It was, but when I went to college, I started studying finance because I grew up in a small town, and I'm like, let me go to college so I can make a lot of money.
But I don't know if teachers make a lot of money.
No, so that's why I decided to study finance. But I think it was my sophomore year of college. I had an internship at a bank with somebody who had a degree in finance. Mm-hmm. And y'all know me. I just ask questions and I just talk.
Yeah.
So I was just talking to him, and I'm like, if you could do it over again, what would you do? And he's like, I always wanted to be a teacher. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Me too. And I was like, is the path you chose worth it? And he's like, no, if I could do it again, I'd switch.
Really?
And so
you would go back?
So I switched. I was like, I'm not gonna make the mistake you did. And I was like, you look miserable.
That's super cool.
But it's because I asked him, I would ask okay, and what is your day to day? What do you do every day? Because I wanted to know. Because I'm like, okay, that's what I say I want to do. So let me ask him. And he's like, well. He's like, I wake up, I come here. Sometimes I got a lot of paperwork. Sometimes I don't. He's like, and I was like, that sounds horrible. I was
really,
that sounds boring.
Just monotony, same thing over and over.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And what surprised me was most of the conversations he had was with me, because usually he's just in his office working.
Mm-hmm. Just on his own.
I was like, man, y'all know me. Y'all know I love talking.
Yeah.
I wandered the school all day. So I'm like, no, I can't do that. I was like, I don't see myself doing that. And I mean, he had good money. He had a few homes, stuff like that.
Oh,
but
really?
The fact that he said that he would redo it, and I was already considering education. So that summer I switched. Well, I couldn't switch my degree because I wanted to be a math teacher. Mm-hmm. But they're like, if you do that, you got to restart all 4 years. And I was like, I ain't trying to be a teacher that bad. So I basically minored in education and finished my degree in marketing.
Okay.
Well, going back to college a little bit, what were some of the benefits you gained from attending the University of Nebraska?
We should have a Nebraska count.
For,
Put it in the bottom corner.
we used to have one.
I think the biggest thing was getting away from my family.
Really?
So I grew up in a small town, and I went to the University of Nebraska, which was about 2 hours away. And building that independence was huge for me. Because growing up in a small town, everyone kind of like acts the
Knows each
same,
other.
dresses the same, knows each other. Everyone knows everything about each other. So when I decided to go to Lincoln, I had a cousin there. That's all I had. And he was going to the schools as well. So, I mean, I started fresh. And it kind of, the first month sucked because, you know, you're homeschool or you're homesick. And you're just like, what the heck am I doing with my life, you know? But no, like getting that independence, meeting new people, seeing that the world is more than just your small town, you know? And then after that, just the people I met, my professor, the person in charge of the education thing. The university was great. They actually helped me get into, so I student taught here with Miss Shipman. And they played a huge role in following up, calling the district, doing all the paperwork, doing all that stuff for me. So
they had those connections.
yes. And so they had connections with Houston. So they have like it's almost like a pipeline where they send teachers to Houston because they're in big, huge need. And they were trying to do that here with Dallas. But what's funny was, I don't know if Shipman remembers, but there was somebody who was over me. And then she just like quit. Like after I was here for a month, she quit and went to Irving. And then the district forgot I was here. And it was so like chaotic.
I guess you can stay.
Good timing.
But no, I think just the networking, the people you meet, and the opportunities that open. But to me, it's worth it. To me, college is worth it, but it's up to the individual what they make out of it.
Yeah, that's true because, you know, I feel like a lot of people have the ambition of going to a big college. And for me, it's not as strong, but what I would agree with is that you get those new experiences and those connections.
And speaking of experiences, like, what was one of your favorite experiences of college?
If you could point out one thing.
If you can even say it out.
The PG version.
Oh man,
Take it
you
back.
put them up for this. Trying to filter it out.
Oh,
Something
no.
appropriate.
No, I think it's just all the friends I made like through the time, like you know, like spring break and all the trips we took, and just the whole college experience. Like when they say college is the best time, that's when I had like no like commitment to anything. Like I was able to sleep in, I was able to do whatever, hang out with friends till like as late as I could. I don't even know how I did it. There's days I wouldn't sleep and I'll go to work, go to school the next day. Like if I do that now, I'm calling in for 2 days. I just can't do it. So just the whole experience and the whole like time frame right there.
Yeah, and I think for you that might have been emphasized because you came from a small town where
Oh yeah.
you didn't have that.
I think everybody needs to experience like college in their own way, because and it depends on what college you want to go to. You may want to go to a smaller campus than a larger campus with a lot of people, but it's important to make your own memories.
Yeah, it is.
Because then it makes the college experience better.
And if I can add one thing, so one thing about college that I feel that the reason I feel people should go is because it helps you kind of figure out more of what you want out of life and figure out who you are too.
Yeah, your independence
Because
helps you.
for most people, they've only lived at home, so they're kind of like shaped by their environment, their parents, their friends, stuff like that. Well, until you get out of the environment, you really don't know who you are. You don't know what your real interests are, because you might be like, oh, I like this, this, and this. Well, that's because that's all you grew up around.
That's all you had access
That's
to.
all you had access to. So that's one thing, because I know college isn't for everyone, but I recommend, and I tell everyone, get away from your home. And I know it sounds weird, and some parents are probably listening to like, no, tell them to stay home. But for someone to truly figure out who they are, they have to put that divide, you know? I'm not saying like leave your home and never talk to them again, but kind of figure out who you are, what you want out of life, and who you want to be out of life.
Yeah, I feel like college kind of forces you to be open to new things and to, like you said, look into who you are. Like you're put into a situation where you have to realize that.
Yeah, and then once you're in college, you know, you don't got teachers like me bugging you like, do your work, where you are, where have you been, this or that, checking on your attendance. Like once you're in college, it's up to you. It's basically, can you do the work? Do you want to do the work? Are you self-motivated? Stuff like that.
All right, so moving on. Whenever you came out of college and you first started working as an ELL teacher, what did you learn about teaching, first getting your baby steps into the education field and working with students who are English language learners for the first time?
So the first thing I learned was the textbooks don't prepare you for actual situations.
The teaching textbooks?
No. So I remember just in teaching, they're like, never do this, never do that. Talk to them like this. And like, they're like, if you reach out to them like this, they're going to react like this. And I remember my first, one of the first instances I had was there was this girl who, she was in my ELL algebra class, but she spoke English. So she had failed regular algebra 3 times. So they put her in ELL algebra, like, oh, it's going to be easier. She's going to pass. But by this time, she's a senior. Like, I mean, a senior who's still in algebra, they probably don't care, So I had her, and I remember she was smart. Like, she would do the little homework assignments and all that. But I gave her a test, and she just stared at me, and I was like, whatever. Like, she's going to do it. I go to my desk. She comes. She turns in an empty, like, test. And so, like, being me, I'm like, no, what the heck? So I go back and I give her the test. And then she just throws it on the floor. I'm like, I'm not going to pick it up because y'all know me. So I go grab another test, and I put it on her desk, and she rips it up.
Really? In front of your face?
Yeah, I'm like, dang. Like, I was like, and
Testing me, man.
and she was testing me, and I knew she wanted me to just give her a 0, but that's the last thing I was going to do. So I'm like, okay, you can take it whenever you're ready. But that was my first instance, like, okay, like, you're going to be in situations where they didn't teach you how to handle it. You're going to deal with students who you might not understand their thinking or where they're coming from. But, that was my first instance where I'm like, whoa, like you're not doing what I tell you to do.
Did you get any hands-on experience before you, like, finished college?
Yeah, so sophomore year, you kind of shadow a few teachers. Junior year, you start kind of teaching a little bit. So you got to do a certain amount of hours where you're in a classroom, you watch for like a month. The next month you start teaching the class. And then my internship with Shipman was kind of like hands-on. Like, Shipman did the first month, and then she's like, here's what I want you to teach, go over, work on. And then that way, when I start teaching, I've already kind of ran a classroom, at least for a little bit.
All right. So I'd like to talk about how, the students, they don't always go along by the textbook. And with that, moving on to the career and technical side, somewhere where, it's more personal, more human-like, where the curriculum is a lot different. So those teachers often teach essential life skills to students to prepare them for the workforce. And why do you think this could be advantageous for students instead of like typical math?
I think the biggest thing for students is they want to know that what they're learning applies to real life.
Yeah,
that they can use those skills, which I know you said like for CTE, the life skills, but I feel like any teacher can apply what they're teaching to real life stuff. Or at least if they can give an understanding of, okay, this will benefit you in the long run for this reason. I feel like students they'll learn, they'll be more engaged, they won't question you or question the homework and stuff like that as much. So I think it's just all how it's presented and how they bring it up, and the assignments too, because I mean you can give kids like essays and stuff like that, but until they actually start applying it with like projects or project-based learning, they're not gonna feel like they're getting anything out of it.
I don't know about math though.
Well, and then so one thing too that one thing too that I heard that I feel like is super important is I heard a comment that said students don't learn from teachers they don't like, and I think that's so true because
that's true.
That's so true. So 45 in calculator. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Wait, I mean, I retract that statement. My bad.
Yeah, but like as a student, whenever you have a teacher that you at least like, or at the very least tolerate, you feel more motivated to like do their homework and do their assignments, but also out of respect. You're like, you know what, I like this teacher. Yeah, I'll do it because like I like you. Like even if I don't like the class and I don't like the curriculum, well, I like, we have some sort of a connection, so I'm more motivated to do the work and actually be engaged in the classroom.
Now, see, and that comes back to that point because I mean, there's an A+ student who, if there's an A+ student who doesn't like their teacher, they become a C student overnight. They're not gonna do the work. They're not gonna put it the effort. They're not gonna care.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. That human relation. I think like teaching, the biggest tool as a teacher is relationship building, and I think that makes the biggest difference. And that's honestly in any aspect of like whatever career field you go. Can you build relationships? Can you get people to trust you? Stuff like that. And I mean, if you're running a business, you're not going to hire somebody you don't trust or like.
That's why we all like you, Mr. Brianna.
You're so real. Like, your advice is like top tier.
Okay, I have another question. So we know, or we found out that you're teaching a new course, which is sports management, next year. Could you give us an overview of what students are expecting to learn and experience in this classroom?
Yeah, so next year is going to be business management, but so we're kind of building it up. So sophomore year is going to be business management. Junior year we're going to focus more on sports, and then senior year is kind of where I think that's where it's going to really like
Accumulate.
Yeah, so that's where students are going to get real life like shadowing experience with different organizations. Right now, me and Pouncey have talked about getting them to like set up events, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have sports here, but set up like an event like at SOC where they help plan, organize a football game or a playoff game. So different experiences. The biggest thing I'm excited about though is right now we're working with someone named Nick. He works with the Rangers with the new business. He's the vice president of new business, and he loves giving back, and he's excited about the program. And what I'm more excited about is, so starting next year, he's going to come talk in August, but he's going to send somebody every month to talk to the students from different aspects. So it could be like a salesperson. It could be somebody in marketing. And one thing he wants to emphasize is sports management is more than just, being an agent.
Yeah.
So sports management, it kind of, he says, like, for the Rangers' sake, he's like, people don't realize we have plumbers on staff. We have electricians on staff. He says we have one of everything. So whatever you see in the real world, like trades and stuff, we have that on staff because it's a big stadium that has events all year round. So they have to keep up with maintenance. They have to keep up with sales. They got to keep up with marketing, promotions, all that stuff.
Because it is a business. I feel like people see a sports arena or something and don't realize that, this is entertainment, but they need to make money. It's a business that sort of goes all year round. And like you said, they have those different aspects and different fields in that one business.
Yep. And then, so the biggest takeaway that I want kids when they leave here is when they're seniors, I want them to have kind of like narrow down what they want to do. So I want them to have experienced the sports side, and if it's for them, to know that they want to study that in college, and if it's not for them, to know that as well. But I know one thing I talked to Nick is we want to do like resume building, shadow opportunities, prepare them for, college and career readiness. So have them do like interview skills, mock interviews with real like Ranger employees, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So not just teachers, because I don't want like, y'all know that if you hear from somebody else, y'all will listen more than if you hear from your teacher.
I like that it's giving hands-on experience. Like this is giving us hands-on experience to like talk in front of a camera with lighting and production, and like each cluster or pathway has their own kind of way to show experience. But I think this pathway is gonna show way more, like give more experience to them. And
I feel like it's gonna become like the popular path.
Yeah.
Because like if people are like, I can get out of school and like go to events.
No, they're not supposed to learn
but
about
like, be
that.
for real. Like people are gonna be like, I can get out of school.
But let's say
not
also like they'll probably find a love for what like they're going into. They'll be like, I came into this to like try to get out of school, but then like now like I'm actually liking what I'm doing. Like because sometimes life like it gives you interest unexpectedly.
That's true.
Yeah, true.
Well, so my buddy that got me in contact with them and all that, he's a salesman for the Rangers, and he loves his job. Like he has a passion for baseball, and he puts in crazy hours. But that's how you know he loves it, because he never complains about it.
He does it willingly, like on his own.
And that's ultimately what, I hope like each one of y'all finds is a career where it's not like a 9-to-5, where it's like you don't mind working extra or you're passionate about it. Or it's a career where you put in the extra hours because you know it's gonna pay off.
Yeah. You see the dividends of it.
Yeah.
And so with that sports management, going back, I like how you said that these students are going to get the experience to learn if they like it. But even if they don't, they're going to get skills that can carry over into a field that they do like. So like you said, with the interview skills, I think that's one of the most important things you can start building in high school, because you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life whenever you're trying to get a career. So even, like you said, if sports management isn't for them, they still can take away something into the future.
And communication and people skills are probably like the most important thing you can take away. Because if you have those, no matter what field you go into, they will pay dividends in the long run. And I always say this too, is like, people don't hire people they don't like. So if you can't sell someone on yourself in a 30 to an hour interview, you're probably not gonna get the job. And I feel like I've told y'all this before, but I say if you got an interview, that means you qualify for the job. Now it's up to you during the interview to sell them on that you're the right fit. Basically get them to like you.
So with the sports management course, and now you have your somewhat of a vision, who would you recommend to join the program?
I think it like the nice thing is being in high school. I say anyone who's even like slightly interested in sports or in that, just to figure out, in marketing too, just figure out if that's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. So right now, the beauty of this school is, for example, y'all are in social media marketing. Yeah. By this point, you either know if you want to continue in marketing or if you don't. Mm-hmm. But you haven't put any.
But you had the experience.
You got the experience, but it hasn't cost you anything. Mm-hmm. But going into college, you can narrow it down more. Mm-hmm. And now when you're actually paying for your school, you have a better sense of what you actually want. Mm-hmm. So I say, if you're even thinking about it, do it and figure out if it's for you. And if it's not, you have the option to change it in college, and you don't lose anything.
Yeah. And speaking of changing, you had said earlier that you had talked to the finance guy and you changed to being a teacher. Since then, has there been any point in time where you're like, I did not want to be a teacher, and you really did something else?
No. So I told Shipman, I was like, I don't know if she remembers this when I first met her. I was like, I want to teach for 3 years, and if 3 years, if I don't like teaching, I'm a dip. Because my degree's initially in marketing, so I'm like, if I don't like it, like, I'm gone. Yeah. But I've liked it more and more every year, so, I mean, I decided to get my master's in education, so I see myself in it for the long run. But, I mean, all it takes is one bad encounter for me to be like,
You haven't had a bad encounter?
Any close calls?
No, I've had some bad encounters with students, but I don't blame the students for it. It's just, I guess so far I haven't been overwhelmed, or I haven't felt like this isn't where I'm supposed to be yet. Mm-hmm.
You picked a good school, and so.
All right, so I'm gonna backtrack a little with the sports management. I like how you brought up project-based learning. How do you plan to really order the curriculum in sports management? Is it gonna be people going out all the time, or like
not all the time? But it comes back to what I was saying with like trying to plan events, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to plan or trying to just figure out like how like a concession place operates at an event. Yeah. How like all the in and outs of a football game, who you need to have on staff, who needs to be there, like just the production side of like football games, like how many employees you need, just so they can get a sense of all the moving parts. Yeah. So it might be starting with something small where like, hey guys, y'all are in charge of running a concession stand today. And it can be like, hey guys, y'all are going to shadow the production team for Dallas ISD. Or you might work with the athletics department and planning this trip out, and you're just more observing what they do and what they actually do day to day. So that's more what I mean, is just them actually seeing it. Seeing like how the individual pieces build up and accumulate to become. Yeah. Because I think that's the biggest thing, because even like with the radio show, I probably see other people do it, but until you like actually walk through everything from the planning, the scripts, the production, you don't get a full sense of it. Yeah. And with that management aspect, I feel like that'll help them, again, in a lot of different fields, because whenever you learn what it takes to manage and organize someone and be a leader, I feel like that gives you a lot of good experience. And then, so you hit it right on the head. And a lot of people don't know that they're leaders until they're put in a situation where they have to lead. So with that right there, I mean, you're right. Like, some of them might be in a situation, and I call, so my little sister's like the biggest leader, because she's like, if no one's doing nothing, she's going to step up. She's like, we got to get this done. So there's a lot of people like that who just need an opportunity. Our director, co-director.
I try to do what I can do.
Nah, she's just bossy.
BFF.
I'm not bossy.
Anyway.
Everyone needs a little push. So do you have some goals set out for the near future in this department, in this new curriculum?
Yeah, so next year is more just actually building the curriculum, building it up, and kind of like having a game plan for the next 3 years, and kind of building that cohort. So these first group of freshmen, so there's a few organizations I'm talking to right now where I'm trying to get it worked out, where they'll kind of sponsor them for like, ACT, SAT, stuff like that. So my goal so right now it's only 8 students that I'm going to have. My goal is to get them all a full ride when they graduate. Wow. So that's my goal right now, and that's what I'm working on. And the nice thing is I get them sophomore, junior, and senior year. Yeah. So I can keep up with them. And then the plus side, the last 2 years doing college readiness, I know what they're supposed to be working on. So since I have them, it's a huge advantage for them and for me as well.
What about us?
You got room for one more? I want a full ride.
You could have been working on that.
More, please.
All right, but then...
I I have a question. So,
go ahead, KB.
when it comes to your work environment, do you prefer working independently or collaborating with others? Because I know some teachers like to do their own thing and some like to.
So it's a weird mix. So I like working independently because I like there's certain times where I'm like, let me just knock this out and I can just focus, get it done. But I like being around people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind working in a team, but I don't like having to depend. Like for example, right now I'm still taking classes, and we're doing the group project, and so they assign a leader, and the leader's supposed to reach out.
Yeah.
Well, the assignment's due Monday. They haven't reached out, and I'm like, dude, I need to get started on this. Like, I have plans this weekend. Like, hurry up. Like, so stuff like that kind of irritates me, but that's why it's so weird because I prefer to work independently, but I like being around people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm that person that will distract you from your work just because I got mine done early.
Yeah, I can relate to that because sometimes it's like, if you need to get something done right, you got to do it yourself, and that's when I like independently. But I also relate to wanting to be around the team, and because it's also motivating whenever you have people working towards a shared goal.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It depends for me. Sometimes if I'm in a certain group, I'd rather be by myself.
It depends on how important it is. If it's super important, I gotta do it
And I
myself
know
because
that
I'll
they
distract
don't do
myself
their
with
work,
other
yeah.
people.
Mm.
But speaking of other people, with the school, do you have any plans for the school in general moving forward? Like anything you wanna give out there?
Yeah, besides sports.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, so I'll finish my master's May 19th, and I'm just,
Yeah.
I know, I'm excited for it. Right now, just working towards, so I see myself, and I want to be in education leadership, but just whenever that plays out, just right now I'm just getting experience and kind of building, just making sure that when I get in that position, I know how schools operate, I know how the district operates, and most importantly, I know the right people.
So you want to take Mr. Pouncey's job?
No.
Is that what we're hearing?
No, never.
He's not gonna take Pastor's job. I can see you as a principal one day.
Thank you. We'll see.
Do you want to be a principal?
That's my goal. I feel like I can make a difference in a school environment, and I don't know but it's one of those things that you'll never know till you find out. I might get a shot to be a principal, and I might be absolutely horrible. But it's
Never
one of those
know.
things you never know. But that's one of those things
Would you give it like 3 years? You're like 3 years, and if I don't like it, I'm not.
at that point, I've invested too much in education where it has to work out. 'Cause
Yes.
Yeah, one of our nerd teachers here, Mr. Lindsay, he teaches English language art, and he
He
talked
cut
about
his hair. I'm sorry. He cut his hair, and I'm like shook over it.
that too. But he was also he's a teacher now, but he said that he took times he was an interim principal because they had lost their principal, and he stepped up, and he talked about how it was just so much more responsibility. And I think that's something that people can learn from a management course, like sports management, the responsibility that it takes to operate an organization, no matter how big or small it is.
No, yeah, no, you're 100% right.
So, what was the most challenging achievement you've accomplished in your career, and what steps did you take to overcome it?
Man,
What's your most proud of?
my most proud one.
Like top 3.
That was a challenge that you had.
I think just getting my bachelor's, just because. So no one in my family had gone to college, and then I didn't even know in my high school I didn't know there was all these resources available for help. So I was kind of just winging it. So like for example, I did my financial aid in July, and school started in August. And then I still didn't have the right mindset in school. So I remember my first year I actually failed out, and I lost financial aid and everything.
Really?
And it's kind of crazy because that was a huge wake up call where I'm like, oh, this isn't a game. This isn't like high school. But I had no one to tell me that at the time. So I went through, and then I had to pay for my classes. So I was like working and paying, and I finally got my GPA high enough where they're like, all right, we'll give you financial aid. But it was kind of like the last straw. If I failed, then I lose it again. But from then, I mean, that kind of woke me up. But that was challenging because when I moved to Lincoln, I had to work to pay my rent. I had to work to feed myself and all that stuff, and all that. It was just a lot of different obstacles all at once. And coming from, I say a good household with both parents, and kind of I never really had any big issues,
Yeah.
So I'm out here in this town alone. My parents don't know that I'm struggling. I'm out here barely passing my classes, I'm working full time and a full time student.
Dang.
Trying to still have that college experience, going out, doing all that stuff, where I'm like, And I don't know, it was just a lot, but I made it through.
Yeah.
And one thing I learned from that was like, dang, no matter how rough it gets, like
you got to keep on pushing.
You got to keep on pushing. Then it also helped me. Like one thing I learned was also not to run or avoid responsibility. Like that's just part of life. And the reason I say that is because I met people in college who, you know, they had like better grades, they were doing better, they had a full ride, this and that. But when it came to like commitment and responsibility, they kind of shied away. And now if you look at where they're at and where I'm at, a lot of them didn't get past certain stages in life. A lot of them actually took a step back because they didn't want that responsibility.
Yeah.
It helps you grow as a person too.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So I think if I can give you advice is don't shy away from commitment or responsibility. No matter how overwhelming it is, just work is part of life, you know?
That's
you
true.
have to find that balance.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that because, like, going in college, like you said earlier, it helps you become more independent. And within that, you have to hold yourself accountable to, like, getting things done because in college, no one's there for you, like, telling you, hey, you got to do this, go to class, keep your grades up. And you said, like, keep working through tough situations. So how do you see the, traditional classroom model evolving in the future?
The classroom model, I think it's going to be a lot more project-based learning. And with, like, SEL, social emotional learning, there's going to be a huge emphasis on just, like, project-based learning, tying it to real life, teaching students how to handle, like, tough situations, not just with, like, work itself, but, like, stress, like, mental health, stuff like that. So I think there's going to be a big push for that. I think there is a big push since the pandemic for that.
Oh, yeah.
I just think, like, schools weren't ready to catch up with it at that time. But I think there's going to be... it's going to be added into curriculum.
Yeah, I think that human aspect of teaching is really being pushed now. And even in our school careers, we've seen it change. Like, at first, if you can think back to middle school and how your education is now, we're already starting to see the changes, even, like, in the classes that we have now. It's a lot more, you know, about that human connection.
Yeah, and with changes of, like, in the classroom, so does, like, how the students operate. So how do you see teachers changing their teaching methods to accommodate for the new type of students?
Oh, I think like Mario said, it's all relationship building. It's all culture building. Does the student feel safe in your class? If not, because realistically, like, once you leave college, one thing they're seeing in the workforce now is people are leaving jobs, and it could be people will leave a high-paying job to go to a lower-paying one if they feel valued, if they feel heard, if they feel like their opinions are valued and seen. So, I mean, it's the same thing. I feel like that's going to carry over because schools should be preparing you for the real world.
Yep.
So we should be kind of having that same environment in the classroom. So I think that it's just going to be, I don't want to say schools kind of reflect on the community, but it should be it should be that way. So I think it's the same thing where schools are going to be more, you know, like students are going to be heard, students are at least heard and seen and given advice or given like support or help. And then that way when y'all go to the careers, you know what to expect.
Yeah. And you talking about the sports management course, I'm a little jealous, not gonna lie. Like, this is something that I would have really
I
liked.
want a full ride, man. Dang.
I like baseball, like I like the Rangers. Like, come on, this would have been perfect for me.
It's like, I don't know sports like that, but like, I'll learn.
Okay, so we're about to wrap this up, but I have one more question. What is some advice that you would give either high school students or like your seniors that are about to leave, going out into the world?
Or just like life advice.
Yeah.
What is some advice?
Don't be scared to take risks. Like, take those chances. So, just like, for example, moving to Dallas, in my mindset, the way I thought of it was like, well, I grew, like, if I fail, I can always go back. So don't be scared to take chances. Don't be scared of commitment or avoiding responsibility. It's basically when you come to terms with, like, okay, this is part of life, and then you can start growing. And then so my pastor actually made a comment that has stuck with me where he says, you might quit learning, but you never stop growing. But the difference is if you're learning, you're growing your career, your friendships, your relationships. But if you're not learning, if you're not putting good stuff, like good material into your mind, he says you're growing bitter, you're growing angry. That's where you kind of see those people where if they're not learning, if they're not growing, they're growing in a negative way. So those people that leave school and they don't apply themselves, they avoid responsibility or commitment, and they're like, dang, I'm stuck in the same way. Oh, school is pointless. I'm not going nowhere in life. Yeah. Or I wasted my time with this. But what's happening is they're not holding themselves accountable. So instead of being like, oh, I'm where I'm at because of the decisions I made, they're stuck and they feel they become bitter towards other people. They start seeing their friends who are doing better. and they start victimizing themselves. Oh, he did this because of his parents. Oh, he did this because of this. So to me, it's just never stop learning. So no matter how high you get or wherever you get, never stop learning, because if you stop, you're still gonna keep growing. But it's just, do you want to grow
the right way,
fruitful, or do you want to grow bitter? That's the biggest thing.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Briones, for
Thank you so much
for your time, giving us this new information about sports management and everything else in between.
And life advice. Great life advice.
Thank you guys for listening
never
to
heard this
KSBM
before.
Radio, the voice of Townview. Make sure to check us out on all our other social media platforms right here
medias.
below. Check us out on there for more content. It's been Mo.
KB.
Nemo.
And
And Mr. Briones.
yes. All right. Thank you. See you guys.
Come closer to the music.
Broadcasting live from Marvin E. Robinson School of Business and Management, Dallas, Texas.
My radio station.
We are KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.